Time for another edition of Bases and Balls with our good friend, Guardians broadcaster Jim Rosenhaus in Toronto this weekend as we get ready, set for a Blue Jays series. And we'll touch on that in just a couple of minutes. Rosie, you and I have talked a lot about the bullpen, a lot of the younger guys stepping up, but we haven't talked a whole lot about where you see our starting pitching right now as we're almost to the halfway mark of the season. And certainly we had the injuries early in the season when you talk about Bieber and Gavin Williams. But overall, your assessment of that starting five or six that we've seen so far this season.
Well, Ray, obviously, when your team is 20 games over 500, the starters are doing well enough to put them in a position to win and hand it over to the bullpen on a lot of nights where they can get the job done. But I think there is concern, certainly in the starting rotation. Tanner Bibby's been terrific, even with a loss last night, but just overpowering stuff most of the night on Wednesday night, I should say, over in Cincinnati. But I think there is some concern about the durability for, say, a Carlos Carrasco, who's pitching in his age 37 season. I think we see they get him out of there. If he can make it into the fifth inning, they're really try not and let him go too much further than that. So I think there's some concerns. Can he make it to the end and be a factor? Ben Lively went back to Cleveland earlier this week because there were some concerns about him, but it looks like he's okay and will pitch here on Sunday. Tristan McKenzie continues to battle through with different stuff than we've seen before. So I think there is some concern there. But you mentioned that there are some pitchers getting healthy. Gavin Williams is on the way back, which is important. It's still a little ways away. Joey Cantillo's a name to keep an eye on because he was on the radar in the spring, got hurt, and now he's on the way back and getting healthy. So I still think there's, for this team, there may be a trade in the offing if they can make it, which is going to be difficult. But I think they're on the search for some outside help pitching wise too, starting wise.
Boy, Rosie, you mentioned Ben Lively, and I had him circled on my calendar. Each and every time I watch this guy pitch, pinpoint control. It's not overpowering stuff, but he gets the job done because he spots those pitches so well. I'm really impressed with his game.
Yeah, and he's not afraid to throw strikes, Ray. And I know that probably sounds well, of course they got to throw strikes, but for a lot of pitchers, they nibble and they try and be careful. He says, "Hey, here's my 91-mile-an-hour fastball, maybe with some movement. You try and hit it," because he's going to throw strikes and he's going to work inside, make hitters uncomfortable. And he has some deception there where the ball is hard to pick up. And he's finally at a stage in his career at the age of 32 where he's going to find out about his stuff and not walk people to get in trouble. And it's really worked well so far.
I love the way Stephen Vogt has shown confidence in him as well. I wanted to go out the right field a little bit. And obviously, with the way our team is playing, there's not too many holes. They're playing really good team baseball. But right field, we see Will Brennan, we see David Fry, we see a whole menagerie sometimes out in right field. How do you see that spot end up playing out, or is it what it is when we talk about right field this year for our Guardians?
Well, Ray, if you have David Fry out there, you have one of the best hitters in the game right now. So that's certainly a big plus, and he's handled himself fine defensively so far. I think they're waiting to see if Will Brennan can break out a little bit. He's had some big hits this season, but maybe not the consistency that they were hoping for. He's probably their best defender out there, but I think they'd like to see a little bit more from him at the plate. But if that's your platoon and Brennan's playing against right-handed pitching, and then Fry against the lefties is in there in right field, and then obviously playing elsewhere on the other days, I think that's pretty good. And maybe that's what you see for a while now, and until things change as they normally do.
That's for sure. Kyle Manzardo, your assessment now, what, about 6 weeks in with Manzardo?
Well, it's been exciting, Ray, because he's given you good at-bats, and the doubles are there, the extra base hits are there, and I think that's important. He's still trying to get that first home run under his belt, but the at-bats are so much better. He's patient at the plate. He'll see pitches. He'll foul some pitches off, and then the batting average is climbing, and you're seeing a lot of extra base hits from him.
And finally, we're almost at the halfway mark of the season, which is hard to believe. You've seen Stephen Vogt. This team's playing so good. And there's a lot of positive things to talk about, Stephen, as the first year manager. But as you've seen every pitch of the season. What has impressed you most about our first year manager, Stephen Vogt?
You know what, Ray? I think just the fact that he has let his coaches coach. They do a great work preparing before the games to get players ready. Great example in Cincinnati, the preparation that allowed Tyler Freeman to make those great catches in the first inning. That came at 4 in the afternoon when JT McGuire, the outfield coach, was out there trying to cover anything scenario wise that could have happened. And so Voter lets his coaches coach. He tries to put players in position to succeed. It's relentlessly positive, the vibe in the clubhouse, and I think that's a real credit to him. It's not that unlike what's been here for a dozen years under Tito prior to that, or 11 years under Tito prior to that. Very much the same. Probably in game how he uses his bullpens a little bit different, but I think for the most part, he has set a really good tone. And you know, it's encouraging, Ray. He was saying the other day, look, I've messed some things up in games. I know that, but he tries to really dive in if something does go wrong, or he thinks twice about what, in terms of a strategy play. He really tries to dive into that afterward and see if he can figure out for the next time that scenario comes up. So that's exciting.
Well, a lot of things have gone right for us this season, but when we've got Toronto, and we see beautiful Toronto there behind you, when we talk about Toronto, they've had some things not go the way they had planned this baseball season. Talk about our matchup this weekend with a Blue Jay team that's had its struggles.
You know what, Ray? You feel like they're at a crossroads. Everything you read, and they're under 500 coming in. They thought this was going to be a big year, and they're in their division right now between the Yankees and Orioles. It's tough nut to crack, and they're trying to, and they thought they had the talent to do it, but it hasn't clicked. They haven't hit the way they thought they would, and there are some who say they need to blow it up and start over, or really go all in with this group that includes Vlad Guerrero and Bo Bichette and others. We saw them make a trade of Kevin Biggio, who was a part of this not that long ago, a big part of it, but now he's gone. So it'll be interesting to get the vibe when we get over to the Rogers Center, which is just behind that big tower behind us, tomorrow for the first game of the series.
Well, looking forward to the calls Friday nights, Saturday and Sunday afternoons here on WAKR. Rosie, thanks for making time. Enjoy Yonge Street and beyond in Toronto, and we'll talk to you next week.
You got it, Ray.